So I heard that Paul Rudd goes into Thanos' pooper and grows big.
Yep. Spoilers.
And that's how they defeat Thanos.
Are you still recording? Because that's the opener for that episode.
I am recording. I don't turn it off until you tell me to. So that's not what happens? Are you kidding me?
No, that is what happens. He goes up and he says, it's specifically,
he goes,
the exact quote
time
is,
for a colonoscopy. And then he flies in his urethra and grows big. See, people think the butt is the best place to grow big, but it's the pooper. Or, I mean, the peeper. How about calling it the peeper?
He says, I'm going to peep up your pooper.
I'm going to poop up your peeper, like the deadly Kendiru. Does Ant-Man say that? Does Ant-Man say, look at his butthole. I can get there.
Look at Thanos shows up and he's just wiping the floor with everyone, and he's so cocky. He just drops his pants. He drops his pants and moons everyone, and Ant-Man goes, "This is my chance to shine."
I got it. Hawkeye, shoot me into his butt.
Shoot me into his butthole.
As soon as I said butt, I was like, butthole's a way better word. Butthole's the best word.
Possibly the funniest word. I mean, it's not just Hawkeye. It's an entire team effort. Everybody is. It's like passing the football. It's like that.
Everybody has to touch it.
It's like that scene in the Mighty Ducks where they do the flying V and they're just like passing the puck back and forth. It's everybody just like passing Ant-Man around until they can finally shove him straight up that Thanos.
That's a good one. So Ant-Man flies into his bunghole, and then everyone else just kind of is like watching it, and then he grows big, and Thanos goes, "Ouch!"
Hysterical. He says, "Oh, my butthole!
My butthole is on fire!
I can feel my butthole tearing."
And then Ant-Man's like, "Bazooper!" I don't have it.
He explodes up his butthole, and then he says, "I'm covered in poopy."
Do you think he finds? Does he have to?
He tricks him into eating an Ant-Man burrito.
What if? Like the Fantastic Voyage. What if Thanos is so caught up in his fight that his butthole is clenched? And so Ant-Man has to go into the quantum realm.
Did you say quantum realm?
No, I said realm. With a
Ant-Man has to go into a quantum realm so he can go up Thanos' butt. He's going to climb inside his butthole at the quantum level.
You know when he's on Iron Man and he has to crawl through his thing, and we have that scene, but instead of him crawling through the cracks in Iron Man's armor, he's crawling into Thanos' butthole. And then Ant Lady, Wasp, goes, "Scott, can you hear me?" She's talking into his butthole. "Scott, can you hear me?"
She's got her face right up against Thanos' cheek. Cheek to cheek.
"Scott, you gotta come out of the butthole." She's
whispering sweet nothings.
You're in the quantum realm. You gotta come out of the butthole quantum realm.
I got the straw. I'll suck you out.
And then the Russo brothers are like, "Yeah, this is good. Get him up there real deep." How far does he go? Farther. Make him go farther, Joe.
I want to see his toes sticking out the cheeks and his face sticking out.
I want him to wear him like a barrel when poor cartoon characters don't have money. I mean, so much content for the cold intro is going to be longer than the episode. How about how much people were just like, why doesn't Ant-Man just fly up his butthole and then grow big? Why doesn't Ant-Man fly up Thanos' butthole and then Thanos grows big? Get it? Winky face. Don't attack the prostate, Ant-Man! God damn it! Now he has the Infinity Wang!
What?
The Infinity Jimhu. You can tell we record these things at midnight because of this.
He's got the stones for time, power, space, reality, the other one, and kidney. Alright, I gotta get off here.
I gotta get off too, man. All this butthole talk.
I have come on a mission of gravest consequence. For I am the Watcher, member of an ancient race far older than man. But though our power is great, we are pledged only to watch, never to interfere. But now mankind faces the greatest danger it has ever known. The danger of
the Watchers of Earth. 199,999.
Welcome to the Watchers of Earth 1999999. I'm your host, Andrew, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Seth.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Our third co-host, Joe, couldn't be here today because he's busy driving a bunch of rowdy kids away from an alien invasion, but our fourth co-host, Uatu, is here, but he has sworn only to watch and never interfere.
Yay! Today we watched Avengers Infinity War, which originally premiered on April 27th, 2018. It was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. It was screenwritten by... Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. The Avengers, Andrew, and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. So, Andrew, in a sentence or less, would you want me to say my sentence or less, or you to say yours first?
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. Well, I'll deal that to you.
This is a very long movie full of a lot of interesting pieces and a lot of interesting scenes that I really, really like. I do not like this movie. I think this movie is less than the sum of its parts.
I also think this is long. I think I said this recently, but none of this feels earned.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. And even more so watching these in a binge like this, every week, you really see the seams. But even when I saw this is my third time seeing this movie. I saw it once in theaters, in a terrible theater going experience. I watched it again, either the same day or the night before Endgame came out. And then I watched it again today, and I did not care for it all three times. I liked it a little better the second time. I think it's fine. Like, it's not, like most of these, it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. I'm not saying it's terrible. I wouldn't even say it's a mess. It's messy. But I think, like, out of all these messy movies, I think this is the one that has a lot of good stuff going for it. I think some of the scene transitions are good. I think it's interesting the way it juggles a lot of different pieces and jumps between them. But I don't feel any of it is actually earned. It's neat to see some of these things happen, but it doesn't earn any of them. And I mean, tiny spoilers for Endgame, like, we're only going to go bigger from here, and it's not going to earn it. They're going to be great. They're going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. But like, the review I had when I walked out of this the first time is this is the comic bookiest movie I had seen at the time. And I mean that in the positive and negative ways. This has everything a comic book mega event has, and that includes everything good, like fun moments and interesting team-ups and character little bits, but also everything else where, like, nothing matters. It's all just stuff. None of it's earned. It just kind of jumps from event to event so that there's spectacle everywhere.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that, like, this is really long, and this is half of a movie.
I would say, like, I was hearing a lot of people say that. I said that when I watched it the first time. I said, like, it was hard. It was weird to review it when I watched it the first time because I was like, I haven't seen the whole picture. Like, I'm seeing it's ending on a cliffhanger and I can't hold that against the movie. I think the movie for the most part has a beginning, middle, and end. It's just not the full story. But I would say, like, this movie is a complete movie. Beginning, middle to end, you could honestly end this movie and never have a follow-up, and majority of it, outside of like a couple leading lines, doesn't need follow-up to actually, like, you could just have a movie where the villain wins at the end and that's it.
I don't disagree.
If it weren't for the parts with, like, you know, Doctor Strange saying, we're in the Endgame now, and crap like that leading into, like,
he said the name of the movie next time. No, I actually disagree there. I mean, it has an ending. Maybe it's less of it's not a full movie and it's not a full good movie.
Here, like, let's do this. So I'm not going to do my usual shtick where we run through the plot because it's a million.
It's
things.
A mess. Yeah.
So we're going to cut right here and we're going to get just into general discussion. I want to try and hit as much of the plot as we can. So if I kind of pull the reins every once in a while, I'll do that.
Just give the little vignette.
But for the most part, it's just going to be whatever we want to talk about, we get to. So hard cut here. First big thing I want to talk about, I remember this being pitched, and maybe I'm remembering this disingenuously. I remember hearing pitches that this was a heist movie with Thanos. That is a much better movie. If instead this was Thanos' movie and we were watching him from the beginning and instead everybody else's crap is just them as he's encountering them, I don't know if it's a better movie, but I think that's a more interesting movie. It's a different movie, and I think it is a better whole of a movie because it puts the focus on one thing.
So, I am not the best person to ask because I've said for 19 weeks now that I don't care about these. But I remember when Infinity War and Endgame were coming out, everyone's like, oh my god, it's happening, Thanos is here, this is baller, we all love it. I guess I just had trouble, and this is hyperbole, but I guess I just had trouble figuring out what was exciting. Like, yes, CGI blows up on screen, and that's exciting, but like, and this kind of ties back into what I was saying about it doesn't feel like a full movie, because I think it's too disjointed.
I don't disagree with that.
It feels like half of a movie because it is the first half. Like,
see, and the weird thing is, again, tiny spoilers, when we get to Endgame, I don't think Endgame is the second half of this movie. It's the sequel to this movie.
And that's fair, and as someone who has not seen Endgame, all I know is that, like, that's going to finish up Thanos. Or whatever, you know, that's going to resolve the Infinity story. So going into that now, and how everybody did 10 years ago, or whatever, 12 years, like, it just feels like it's, I mean, you need to have the Avengers meet back up, you need to have Thanos get the stones, you know, you need this stuff at some point, but I don't know if in 2.5 hours, like, I just feel like a lot of the stuff could have been on the cutting room floor. And that doesn't, I mean, I don't think you can fit Infinity War and Endgame into one movie. But it just is, I don't know, it didn't feel satisfying. And that's not because Thanos, quote unquote, wins at the end. Everything just kind of felt like things.
I agree. But I will also say, in the truest bit of, like, this is a comic book movie, like, that's what an event is. Comic book events are not stories. They are events.
Things.
They are a series of things that are exciting to read. And like, if you look at each like individual segment of this movie, the vignettes, as you said, those are like the individual issues of the event book. And each one, you read it and you go, like, this is exciting. There's a thing happening. Like, the Guardians are finally meeting with other characters from this thing. Like, here's Doctor Strange doing stuff. These people are meeting people they've never met before. These people are doing things. We get to see what everyone else is doing and this and that. The problem is like you said, they don't really matter. They don't really go anywhere. They're not really earned. And
you're not wrong comparing it to an event book, and I don't think that's unfair to it. But it's just kind of like, I don't know. Make a good movie.
I guess that's the thing is, like, you say make a good movie, and I don't disagree with you. I don't. That's what we could say about each of these stupid Marvel movies is you can look at these and like you said with Doctor Strange, you're like, I don't care about Doctor Strange learning the mystic arts. I want the thing where he has to also deal with being a doctor while also dealing with magic stuff and that. And like, I agree with you. That's an interesting movie. That's not what these are ever going to be. And I think while it is fair to point that out and say that's what you want and talk about that, I think it's unfair to say this movie sucks because it's not that. Just like
it's kind of a cop-out.
I think this movie would be far better if it was following Thanos, and it was like a weird movie where we watch Thanos go to each place and gather each of the stones and learn more about his stuff, because let me tell you, that thing with Gamora, completely unearned, don't believe it for a second. Not a second. Like, and so, like, all of that stuff, like, I think a more interesting movie is a movie following Thanos and his crew gathering all the stones, and instead we see everybody that we have been following for a million movies show up on the sidelines as the antagonists. I think that's interesting. It's not fair to say that this movie isn't that and so it sucks. This movie has problems that are beyond that. They're just like generic structural problems. But this is also like, this is an event movie. Like, this movie does not exist to tell a story. It's telling one, it's trying to, like, good or bad, it is trying to tell a story. It's not like they're
fair. That's
not what they want to do here. But this is a spectacle. That's what this is. This movie does not care as much about the story as it cares about bringing all these characters together from different movies. Having characters from movies interact with other characters they've never seen before. Bringing everything together into one whole. And at that point, like, that's where I'm lenient with this, is like, I don't like this movie very much. In fact, I was getting a lot of people very mad at me when I saw it the first time because I didn't like it then. And the further we get into these, I'm going to start really like leaning more on your side with these movies where I'll defend them, but I don't really care for them. But like, I don't like this movie, but it is a spectacle. And as a spectacle, it works. It's not necessarily good. It's not high art. It's not a great story or a great movie, but it is a spectacle. And as a spectacle, it is doing everything it needs to do. It fires on almost every cylinder.
Well, we are past the point of the first Avengers movie where it's fun to see everybody in a circle because there's now like 30 people that we need to watch interact and things like that. Here's another problem of mine, and kind of tying into what you just went into, I think some of it is I don't know what I want. Like, I don't want the movie I watched, but I sit here and they tell jokes and they diffuse tension, and you know me, I like when comic books are fun. I like fun things. You'd never think that because I always complain about all the jokes in these movies.
I think this movie has the worst joke in the entire Marvel universe. I've alluded to it before in this podcast. We'll get to it. I think it has the worst joke, both in where it falls in the movie and what it is.
But it's just something that, like, I don't know if it's where these movies came from. Because, I mean, I guess Iron Man didn't have as much jokes as it had just, like, sarcasm. But whenever there's a joke, and in this there's a lot, it diffuses tension, it kind of takes me out, and I don't know. These movies have gotten so gritty, if that's the right word I'm looking for, which I don't want to...
I don't know about gritty, I'd say serious.
I don't want to say gritty because gritty makes me think of like Snyder.
It reminds me of like, they're not as bad, but they remind me of like the CW shows like Flash and stuff where they have these moments where they're like, in order to be a show for adults,
yeah,
we have to have these scenes of characters talking about their emotions or getting mad and yelling at each other or whatever, instead of just like, let's just let the superheroes be superheroes. And I was like, trying to explain to I was talking to a coworker yesterday, and he was talking about the Marvel movies and the DC movies, and he was saying how I had mentioned how I don't like Man of Steel and all that, and he's like, yeah, but you're a Superman fan, aren't you? And I said, yeah, and he was like, I hate Superman. Superman sucks. He's like, I like Batman. He's like, what do you like about Superman? He's too powerful. And I said, I don't know, like what I like about Superman, and it kind of falls into like Ultraman and stuff. Like what I like about Superman is he is all powerful and he uses it to be good. Like it's just, when done right, Superman is pure.
Yes.
And that's what I want out of superheroes. And there's glimmer of there's tiny little glimpses of that in this universe. I think some of the Captain America stuff until this point where he becomes Gritty Soldier Man does that. But like, I guess that's what I want out of the superhero movie. Like I see all these bits with like everybody flinging around and doing their super stuff. And I'm like, that's fun, but it's like missing something to make it like, yeah, it's hollow. It misses that whatever it is I need for it to connect properly with me. Like I watch the Kamen Rider movies and stuff, and they're big and they're stupid. They're so stupid. But every single one of them has a moment where all of Japan starts cheering and believing in Kamen Rider. And then Kamen Rider stands up and he's more powerful than he's ever been before because everyone believes in him and there's the power of friendship. And
you a big Tinkerbell fan?
It's dumb as all get out, but it just like, it's that purity of what a superhero is. They're not like action
They're
stars.
Unapologetically good.
Yeah, and like these just don't quite have that. There's multiple threats of death and violence by both sides, and it just, I don't know. And that's not the deal breaker here. It's just like, that's my biggest takeaway of like, I don't know. It's just not, it's not what I look for. And to be fair, like reading superhero comics, it's what a lot of them go for nowadays anyway.
Well, and it's weird because there's a lot of jokes, but I don't think these movies are, I mean, would you call them like fun, like you would call like Kamen Rider Forze fun?
No, but I would say it depends on the movie. As a broad like stroke, I would say no. The Marvel Universe is not fun. I will say, from what I remember of Endgame starts going into a more fun direction, but I think it's because you got most of the misery out of the way in this one, and you can only really go up from there.
Maybe there's just something that, like, for me, at least with I've watched fun movies, but maybe there's just a disconnect between, like, a live-action movie and a animated thing, or a drawing can be clean in a way that a live-action cannot. And so seeing soot on everybody's face just kind of instantly takes me out of, like, this isn't like a fun movie. Things are blowing up, like, dirt's going everywhere, grime's going everywhere. It's weird. A couple things I don't know where they belong. Chris Evans looks like Nicolas Cage when he first shows up. Ebony Maw looks like Bill Nighy.
I can kind of see that. I think Thanos looks fucking stupid. I think he is the least imposing villain these movies have had. He looks so fucking... I actually
don't have a problem.
I think he looked okay. I remember complaining about his armor in previous movies, and you don't get a really good look at it in this one, but I remember him being like solid gold when he showed up in Guardians or whatever it was, where you got to see him in his full getup. And in this one, it didn't feel like he was solid gold. I felt like he had like little. Well,
he doesn't. He takes off his armor like.
Yeah, but I'm saying like when he was wearing it, it felt like I think I remember seeing more than just like gold. And I think the armor looked okay, but he takes it off and he's immediately not imposing.
I think he feels imposing.
I disagree. I mean, he is imposing that he's huge.
And I think that worked enough for me.
It doesn't for me. And it's kind of in the same way, like, he looks too human. He looks too much like Josh Brolin. It's not actually Josh Brolin there. It's all a bunch of CGI crap. So why even bother? Like, normally in these movies, everybody takes off their fucking helmet so that you can get the star's face on screen. In this one, the CGI monster takes off his CGI helmet so that we can see that he looks kind of like a weird purple CGI version of Josh Brolin. And I'm like, just keep the helmet on. The helmet wasn't even covering his face. Just keep the stupid helmet on him. He looks so dumb once he takes it off. He's bald. He's got the stupid little ears sticking out. I don't know what it is. He looks like a doofus. And I know he's imposing. He's huge. And like, I'm not going to say he's not threatening, but he takes like literally all of his armor off for no reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it was too difficult to animate and they didn't want to deal with it. That was probably that.
I mean, looking at stills, I think it doesn't work as much as it does in motion.
And that's the version of Thanos that's everywhere now, is that stupid helmetless one, and I think he looks so dumb.
I mean, I like Starlin's version better. I won't deny that. But I think he works fine. He's a calm demeanored villain. He's got the baritone voice. He's physically imposing. I was actually fine with him.
Also, here's one of my things that I don't know where else this goes. I've been meaning to bring this up for the past 3 Avengers movies, since we'll count Civil War, and I keep forgetting to say it when we sit down to record. I hate the Avengers theme. I think it is just very generic and bland, and every time they bring it into, like, they use it several times in this movie to, like, kind of swell and be like, oh, it's the hero moment, and it sounds stupid to me, and it's a dumb complaint. I don't know where else to bring it up. It just, every time I hear it, it bothers me, and every time I go, I gotta mention that to Seth, and then I
don't know if it's the zeitgeist, but it feels stock music-y.
Yeah. Like I said, I've never liked it, and it was always kind of whatever, but they keep using it to like kind of sell those big moments, and it makes those big moments hit even less for me, because I really don't, like, they're already feeling kind of hollow, and then that music plays, and it just feels forced to me.
So, another thing I say every week is that I am stupid and forget all these movies all the time, and so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we got here. Because there's more to say about Scotland, but we get reassociated with Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson and Falcon. And I was like, why are they in Scotland? And I was trying to think, why aren't they...
Well, technically, they're specifically in Scotland just because that's where Wanda and Vision met up. There was nothing significant about Scotland other than it was out of everyone else's radar, I guess.
So did Steve and Black Widow and Falcon all go to meet them there?
They were called by Hulk at the beginning, or by Bruce at the beginning of the movie when he takes the phone, and they must have told him that Thanos is coming and that they needed to get to the stone, so they went to Vision or to Wanda.
I thought they were just,
especially since Wanda said she was getting ready to leave, and I don't know if they were. I forget if they were saying she said that she was getting on a train or a plane or something, or if they were coming to pick her up. I'm not really sure. She was going to like
Glasgow.
I'm not sure if they knew where she was or not, but I assume they were able to find.
It made it seem like they were just like living in Scotland.
I think no. It seemed I thought it implied that they were meeting up there. Like that was like a retreat, like a weekend getaway
for Wanda and Vision. Yes, not for.
Oh, everyone else.
Steve and
no, everyone else was there because that's where Wanda and Vision were, and they even mentioned at the beginning. Tony Stark has that line where he's like, "I bet Steve could find him." I don't know how Steve could, but I would just assume like no one knew where they were, but Steve was able to figure it out because earlier in the movie someone said that, and that's all the information you need to know to connect those dots, I guess.
But that was just something I was like, why aren't they in the upstate Avengers facility? And I was like, I don't know.
That's because they all went rogue.
Right.
I don't know where they were staying. They seemed to not know Falcon was flying the jet, and he seemed to not necessarily trust flying into the trees, because he has that line about crashing or something.
Yeah.
So I thought they were all staying in Wakanda, but that seems to not be true. I guess they have just been running
That's why I thought they were just staying in Scotland.
I mean, maybe they were, but I don't think so. I think that just happened.
And it doesn't matter where they were. I was just trying to figure out, like, why are they... What is happening? And then, I hate Cosmic Asgard.
At this point...
I know you like it.
like it now. I didn't before. Now that they've embraced it, I'm fine with it. Although, well, never mind. We'll table that until Endgame.
I hate Cosmic Asgard, and I know we just like differ on that, and that's fine. It does answer your question, or our questions in the first Thor movie. You were holding out on me.
How's that answer?
Because you're like, I don't know how like Asgard works. Where it's like, is it like in space, or is it like...
Oh, I still don't know. I mean, I guess it is in space, but
it is, for all intents and purposes, a planet.
Yeah, I guess part of that discussion in Thor was me just not really remembering where we get to. But I still, because I think it was either that one or Thor 2 where we were talking about how maybe it's in another dimension. I think you could still argue that it's another dimension, and that dimension is, you fly through space till you get there, or you fly through a black hole once you leave. But it is, for, like you said, for all intents and purposes, it's a planet. As far as Ragnarok,
I disagree, only because Nidavellir is unmistakably not in a different dimension.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I would say, like, it could be in another dimension, but outside of the fact that they, one, fly there in a, like, shuttlecraft, and two, Rocket knows what it is, so it's not like a mythical thing, it's just like a rumored planet somewhere in the outskirts of space. Yeah, you're right. Speaking of that, I do not care for Peter Dinklage in this movie. I don't mind him as a dwarf, and a giant dwarf, like, I have no qualms with that. He is, like, really laying on some kind of voice.
I don't think that's him. I think that's post-production.
Really?
It's, like, too low.
It might be, but there's something where he just feels like he is acting as opposed to everyone else.
He didn't bug me too much. I don't know. This is, like, so hard to talk about because it's just a bunch of things.
So, okay, let's divide it into two sections. So we have the space crew, the Thor crew, and the Earth crew. Iron Man's the space crew because they meet up. I mean, we can divide this however you want. I'm just trying to figure out a clear way to kind of...
I guess that's fair, yeah.
Talk about everybody. So we start with Thanos at the end of Ragnarok, taking out all the Asgardians on the ship.
Which, again, is just such a weird thing since Black Panther's in between it. I know it's just me and my stupid dumb brain that doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
But it's just like...
I mean, I don't know what to say other than, like, I don't know. I don't have that problem.
It's just
but I know, like, every movie is a new hurdle for you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, going back
I feel like here I'm watching like, I'm just kind of like sitting back and watching these movies, and you're over there playing Quap, where each new movie you're like, wait, which one raises my knee? How do I get past this? What do I do?
Well, to put it in your like event book analogy, it just feels like, I don't know. I read an issue that like both Thor Ragnarok and Avengers Infinity War were released in like the same week.
But here's the thing. To put it in that perspective of individual issues, you're looking at this as the, like, Marvel Universe Maxi series, whereas instead, like, if this was an event thing, like, this is the event book Infinity War. Before that, there's a bunch of things leading up to it, and you pick up that week's issue of Black Panther that may or may not tie into an Infinity War, but from the movie's perspective, it sets up Wakanda, so you don't need explanation for what the fuck's going on there, because this movie does not care about explaining anything to you. You've either seen every movie, or you're just going to fly by the seat of your pants.
I guess, like...
I don't feel like there is a moment in this movie that really sits down and explains anything to you.
I mean, I agree.
But, like, when I look at Black Panther, I'm just like, I don't know, it's just another Marvel book that came out the month before the big event started. And its connection as far as the movies go, like I said, is just setting up Wakanda so that you know what it is. You don't need to ask questions when you see this, technologically advanced super village or super city in the middle of a holographic jungle.
It's just... I mean, I know I get caught up in this timeline. It's just such a weird thing to be like... I mean, I don't know. Like we were saying with Steve and everybody going off the grid because the UN made him sign a paper. Like...
It may well not have happened.
Like, that's like 6 movies ago. And it's just like, how long have they been like hiding? Like, yeah, he's got a beard.
They say it.
But like...
You're the one that's always calling it out when I ask these types of questions. You're like, they said it in the movie, or it flashed on the screen. They say it. I think they said it's been 2 years, 2 or 3 years. There's like a specific line when Ross is in there yelling at everybody.
Probably 2 years since that's when the movie came out. But what were they doing for 2 years? Nothing. Like the Avengers,
doesn't matter.
The Avengers, yeah. And I guess that's...
And I mean, I will say, like I agree with you. Like, as those go, like, again, in a perfect world, the next big movie after Civil War, we would never have gotten that end credits bit with Captain America breaking everyone out of the raft. That would have been its own movie. Yeah. Do you need that? No, you can fill in the blanks. I can follow that Captain America is running around. I don't need to know what he's been doing for 2 years. They can just say they've been on the run, and I just like shrug it off, whatever. But that's the more interesting thing, and that fleshes these things out a little bit more so that things feel earned. Because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just like hyper jumping from moment to moment. Like, you don't need the in-between stuff because it just jumps to the next thing. And so that's why none of these feel earned, is because you don't sit with anything. You just move to the next thing because you only have a 2.5 hour movie to cover everything you want to cover, and it's got to be a movie, so you don't waste a lot of time sitting around and going like, what's everyone been doing? How does this thing work? We're not going to explain Wakanda because we don't have time for it because we got all this other crap going on.
Well, and that's the benefit of like comic book storytelling to movie storytelling, is that comic books are faster and cheaper to make. So you can't have Captain America Civil War, they all go off the grid. You're still reading Captain America Civil War sequels and stuff, figuring out what's going on with them, and then when Infinity War comes up, it's not like nothing happened on Earth for like it feels weird after watching like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man Homecoming and Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther. Like, it seems weird for that to then get to Avengers Infinity War and Tony's just like, the Avengers don't exist anymore. And it's like, we've been watching Marvel movies, like.
Now that you say that, that reminds me, that's another thing that I was thinking of, a more interesting movie in my brain, where if this was the only movie, like there's that pitch that was going around for the Justice League movie that was being produced long before the Joss Whedon one, that is basically like, let's just make a Justice League movie that has no setup beyond just like, we're just going to introduce a world where these superheroes exist.
It was like the reverse of the Marvel formula.
It's like a crazy nonsense movie where it has like all this big like legacy stuff where like everybody has had like history. So there's no origin stuff. It's literally just like jumping into everything thing. It sounded really interesting. Anyway, I was thinking of that where I was like, what if this was the first movie and the only movie? This was just a standalone Avengers movie. And because I was thinking of like from Hulk's perspective where he just like shows up and they're like, the Avengers are disbanded. And I was thinking like, that would be the type of movie that they'd make if they just wanted to like jump right in. You wouldn't just like jump into like, it's like the Avengers video game. That game opens up with like, it's the Avengers' greatest day. And now they're disbanded and they're gone forever. And that's what that line reminded me of just like, you know, you just jump to like the end of the world and everything's different.
But I mean, like, I think I've said before that, I mean, this whole thing is the Infinity Saga.
Retroactively. I mean, it is, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, it's also separated.
Yeah, and again, it's just that thing where like I don't look at it as the whole like you do.
Yeah, you sit there and you say, I am watching Black Panther today in a vacuum.
Not in a vacuum, but I'm watching Black Panther as a piece of the Marvel universe, not the piece of the Marvel story.
I'm watching it as part.
You're reading it
18.
as a chapter.
I'm reading it. I'm watching it as part 18 of however many, and you're watching it as just like, I'm watching a Marvel movie. But, and I mean, like we were saying, a lot of that goes into the fact that none of this stuff is earned. I mean, there's a lot of moments, I think, much like every relationship in these movies, I think Wanda and Vision is just like so thrown together.
Yes, because they're the totality of their scenes, I think they lock eyes in Age of Ultron as like and that's more of like a nerd hint of like, we know that these characters are a thing.
Well, I would say it's mostly in Civil War.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, then you get a little bit of them interacting in Civil War. And even then, it's like, not much. And then they fight each other. And then you jump to this one and they're like having secret romantic rendezvous.
Plus, I don't know.
And that's fine.
I know it's like comic stuff. It's weird to me.
Wanda I think Vision... it's actually, I think it's less weird in the movies than it is in the comics, because in the comics, as I understand it, Vision is literally a robot. Whereas in this one, he's a robot in the sense that he's like a synthetic human.
It's just something like I have no, like, other than basic crap, I have no information on anything Wanda or Vision in the comics. I know it's a thing, but it's just something that's like, it just feels a little gross.
That's because you're a prude.
Yeah, I don't want in her robotic marriage.
In her robotic. No.
Do you think, you know how Red Tornado's power is that he can cry? Do you think Vision's power is that he can jizz?
Yes. Absolutely. He cries from his pee-pee.
I thought I'd at least get like a snort on that. I thought you'd appreciate that.
As soon as you said that, like, you know he can cry, I was like, I know where this is going.
I figured if I felt like I needed to say the Red Tornado bit.
See, that was your mistake. You got to do like the Marvel movies, and you just go for the punchline. No setup. You just let everyone else make those connections.
Wanda and Vision is not earned. I don't think it's earned when Tony Stark... Go ahead.
On the Wanda and Vision thing, I agree that their relationship, again, this is weird. I agree that it's not earned across the movies. I will say that you can have their scenes in a vacuum, which I know you struggle to do. In a vacuum, in this movie, it does as much as any other movie would do to establish that they have some sort of relationship and rapport together. And I think this movie gets across the information you need. I will say that we don't spend enough time with them across the Marvel Universe to understand this relationship from where it started. But in a vacuum, with this movie existing on its own, it sets up all the information I need, and I believe their relationship based on what I see in the movie. And I think the ending where this is a movie full of people making stupid fucking decisions, one of them being Tony Stark, and there's a scene with 3 Tony Starks in space all being dumbasses. This is a movie full of people making dumb decisions. Wanda's one of the few people that makes a good decision, and I think because it is set up and paid off in this movie, and in this movie almost entirely, I think her bit at the end with destroying the stone is earned, and it's not like a big moment, but I think that's one of the few moments that I think actually like kind of lands where it needs to land.
So you're not wrong, but I mean, this goes to my cop out of it's not the movie I want. It never tries to be. It never wants to be. Yada yada yada. I agree. I think it says what it needs to say about Wanda and Vision. I get it. They're in a relationship. Great. I don't think the movie does anything with it. I think at the end, like, I don't know. I don't care. I guess like. I don't know what else to say because it's such a cop-out thing where it's like...
And you're right. I will say that like the movie, because the movie is a million different things, it doesn't spend as much time as it should have with this type of story that any other movie would do. But in a movie with 10,000 pieces, I think it devotes just enough time to get across the information it needs to get across. But that's the Marvel Universe. Marvel Universe is like just enough information to hit these beats that we don't really earn. I feel like that one is earned. But I also think like you're not wrong, because it's an opinion here, but like I think your apathy affects a lot of this, and it's not wrong for you to say that. Like you can be apathetic and say like
disagree.
It doesn't, but like I think a lot of these come down to like you don't care, and the movie doesn't make you care, and that's on the movie, but also some of that's on you. Not that you need to care, but just like the fact that you don't care is not going to help this movie. You don't care, you just don't overall.
I mean, it's just
you are apathetic to these movies, so they're never going to even at their best. They're never going to do what they need to do to really win you over. I think Guardians did that, and even then you're still a little apathetic. I think Homecoming did it for you.
Well, and I think, like, I mean, Infinity War's problem is that there's 400 things going on. And, like, if it could just focus on one, I might care. But the thing is that Wanda and Vision are, like, I don't know, star-crossed lovers. I guess they can't love.
It's like a weird Romeo and Juliet thing.
Why can't they love?
Because they're on opposite sides of the Civil War. So like Wanda is a fugitive and Vision is not. But then he is a fugitive because then he just like goes off the radar.
Yeah, I don't know. But like, and then you spend the whole movie with, well, not the whole movie, but you spend their scenes with them where he's just like, Wanda, kill me. And she's like, no, we'll figure it out. And then like, I think it culminates the best at the end where she's like in the tower and then she leaves to go help fight, and then that's when he's compromised. But I wholeheartedly disagree when she destroys the Mind Stone being impactful, because during that drawn out bit where she's like destroying the Mind Stone, I knew he would just immediately undo it. I knew Thanos would use the Time Stone and he'd be like, hey, that big powerful scene you just did, who cares? Like, yeah, she still did that. She still defeated, or not defeated, she didn't defeat Vision. She still murdered Vision.
Yeah, I think that may have been better if it would take a lot of rewriting and juggling, but I think it would have been better if you didn't know he had the Time Stone at that point. Like if we had like cut away from everyone wrestling with him, and then you learn afterwards.
Because it's just like, immediately undone.
Because I don't disagree with that, but I think that moment is earned regardless of whether it's going to get walked back. Because honestly, a lot of this stuff is going to get walked back. Like, it's no secret. They're not going to kill Spider-Man. I remember talking to people after this movie. Is Silver Sable dead? I felt like after this movie, I talked to people, and it's weird, and I don't know how much of it is the fact that I just know how movies work, how much of it is the fact that I know how comics work, and I'm just used to the fact that dead doesn't mean dead. But like, I was talking to people who were baffled that they killed Spider-Man. Like, absolutely baffled. And I was like, you know he has another movie coming. It's announced.
Could have been set in the past.
I guess so, but it's just like baffling to me. I was like, you can't believe this. that they would kill off all these characters. Also, how about like Thanos' completely impartial, like I'm going to kill off 50% of the universe and, no rhyme or reason, just 50% gone, but he conveniently leaves all the original Avengers so that they can team up in the next movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If we want to talk about unearned, everything with Gamora, the Star-Lord stuff, unearned. Absolutely unearned. The Thanos stuff, even more unearned.
Yeah. I want to touch on that bit about Wanda just because I think it ties in with a lot of this stuff. I don't disagree that, I know, hey, I like Dragon Ball. I know that doesn't mean den. I'm fine with that. I think even knowing that, like, you can put together a decent story where at the end it's like, it's kind of undone. I think for spending 2.5 hours watching this movie, I don't think it gets that benefit of, oh, well, you knew it was going to be undone anyways, so just take it at face value. And it's like, I mean, it's not, I didn't think it was great at face value. It's just like, because, I don't know how much screen time they had in 2.5 hours, but it just, I guess again, like, disagreed on that feeling earned. You didn't think so, you did, I didn't think so.
And to speak on the time stone thing, like, I agree. You can see that coming from a mile away, but that's also if you're well versed in movies and like storytelling. I feel like for the movie and for the average audience, there's enough disconnect there for that moment to hit. And I guess I graded on that kind of scale as well.
That's just a disagree.
I feel like you pull a room of 10 people and one is going to have been like, yeah, I knew the time stone was going to undo it.
No, you pull a room of 10 people and I'm the only one that doesn't like this movie. Gamora. Waste of space. So, okay, the Peter Quill thing, I do not understand this whole thing where she's like, Peter, you gotta kill me if Thanos gets me, you gotta kill me. And then she kills Thanos, and he's like, hey, reality stone. Which, by the way, I will say, I think that worked. It immediately undid what she just did, but I felt like a thing happened with purpose.
Wait, which part? The fact that he faked everything with the reality stone?
Yeah.
I don't, but that's also part of it is the fact that I think there's a lot of decisions in here that are there for moments, not for logic. I think this is one of them. Why he would hide all this and everything it's stupid. Also, this movie tries to kind of set powers to the Infinity Stones. None of these powers make sense. No. They're all over the place. Yes. They all do whatever they fucking need him to do. Sometimes he's all powerful and can do this or that. The Reality Stone seems to simultaneously actually alter reality and also sometimes just kind of like create like mirages and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I don't get it.
Everything happening at the collector's place seems to be just like an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, he actually uses reality to summon stuff. But then he also on whatever his planet was, I don't remember what it's called.
Titan.
Oh, it is Titan?
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking because he's called the Mad Titan. That was.
No,
I kept thinking it was Titan, but I was like, I think I'm just.
You're like, that's too
throwing
stupid.
That in there. But whatever. On Titan, he like shows what Titan used to look like, and that seemed to be an illusion, not him actually bringing the planet back to life. Because again, the fact that all the stones together allow him to rewrite reality. Why wouldn't the Reality Stone do that?
I know.
Like, it doesn't make any sense, and it's fine. It's whatever. They're not MacGuffins, but they're all MacGuffins to just propel everything forward. He can't do his big bad thing unless he has all of them. And each one he gets makes him more powerful, and he gets a new superpower to beat that level. And it's fine. It's whatever. But they're all over the place. And so I didn't feel that one was earned because I didn't understand what the fucking Reality Stone did, and I didn't understand why he bothered with the illusion in the first place. Because it didn't seem to fucking matter.
Hey, why doesn't Thanos just snap and make more resources?
That's what I was gonna say, and it doesn't. The reason is because it doesn't matter. Like, he just needs to have his grand plan. And I guess you could make the excuse that he's so hell-bent on this one decision, thinking that this is the sacrifice he has to make, that he just doubles down. He's already killed so many people, he can't just be like, oh, wait a minute, I've been going about this in the opposite direction. You just double down on your bad idea, buddy. But I mean, I agree. It's all stupid. It's all whatever, and I don't know.
Okay, so I don't understand why after Gamora kills fake Thanos is like, hey, you didn't kill me, that's a magic power. And then he stands behind her, and she's like, okay, Peter, you gotta kill me now. And I didn't quite understand why.
Okay, real quick. Speaking of the stones, I don't like how the time stone does the same, like, weird magic rune stuff that Strange is.
I just took that as he's like, uses the time stone to boost his mat. Like, it's like a catalyst for him. That's not like the time stone.
No, that's fine. But Thanos uses it, and it puts the stupid runes over his gauntlet.
That's because it's part of like that's because it's like a mystical art. Rune.
It's stupid, and I hate it. I also hate it every time Doctor Strange like punched his wrists together and then pulls out his stupid. I hated that. They also got rid of the gloves that he had in Ragnarok. What the fuck? He's back to his dumb movie costume. Anyway,
I hate all these movies. I know I wanted to do this, but I regret it so bad.
But
you were gonna tell me why this is a good scene?
No, it's not a good scene. You're the one that said you liked it.
I liked before that. I liked when
I don't understand why she says. So watching it, knowing where the movie was going, and she's like, Star-Lord, you gotta kill me.
Why?
If Thanos gets me, you gotta kill me because of things I know. And I was thinking that she knew that he had to sacrifice something he loved, or he had to sacrifice something in order to
get the Soul Stone?
Get the stone. And she's like, if I'm already dead, he will not be able to sacrifice me to get the stone.
I thought it was the map. I thought it was Vormir.
But it turns out she needed to die because she knew where the planet was.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
And if she's dead, no, but that's stupid. And that's why I thought, knowing what has to happen to get the stone, that she had more information, even though it doesn't make sense on that front, because when we get to there, she knows that Thanos doesn't love anything, or believes that he doesn't love anything, and she also does not know that he needs to sacrifice to get the stone. She just believes he needs to go to the planet to get it. So, it's all nonsense. But the fact that she needs to die is stupid because it doesn't matter. Like, yes, she's the only one who knows where the stone is, but I mean, he could still track it down, I guess. She did. So I'm sure somebody else could.
It seems like he can, it seems like the Infinity Stones kind of track each other.
Speak to each other?
Yeah, so I don't know why he couldn't just it'd probably take too long, but...
And the sacrifice thing is stupid. Because again, I don't believe that he loves her. I don't know why. He's shown to be nothing but a despicable monster. He hates Nebula. Like, she is literally dirt to him. Like, it's fine. I guess he could love one child, but I have no reason to believe why he took her off the planet when she was a child. We see that scene, and there's no point to it. It's just to set up that he took her when she was young, and he was like a father to her, I guess. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. Again, it's setting up the pieces.
It seemed like she was just a tool.
Yeah, it's all there for the illusion of setup.
Plus, she tries to kill herself when they're on Vormir, but why not just try to kill yourself before that?
Well, again, I guess, I don't know. I guess she was maybe seeing a way out or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. She needs to be alive so that we can have the scene of him chucking her over the cliff.
Which is stupid. A lot of these things, I was just, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, a lot of these scenes, I was just kind of trying to imagine myself opening night in an Avengers Infinity War theater, and just kind of being like, what am I missing? Are people watching this Gamora scene and just Gamora's no.
I think some of it is just you lack the interest. And not so much the interest. Talking with people who love these movies, a lot of it is just your general movie audience doesn't care about this kind of stuff. I mean, that's why you get a bunch of stupid movies. There's a reason that there's a term for popcorn blockbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't care. Most people don't think. And that's not to say most people are stupid. It's just I don't watch the same movies. Yeah, it's... They sit there, they want to just watch things happen.
It's a fun spectacle.
And then when it's over, they don't think about it. They do. They talk about it. They talk about what they like.
But they're not recording 2.5 hours.
Well, even just even before we're recording stuff, you and I, we think, we digest, we...
Dissect.
Yeah, it's just the nature of us, I guess.
How we intake media.
And most people don't. I talk to a lot of... I always talk to coworkers who know that I like superheroes. They want to talk to me about these movies, but they don't want to hear negative things. They don't want to hear... They just want to be like, oh, do you remember the part where this? And it's yeah, it was fine. Or yeah, it was dumb. I didn't like it. It didn't make sense. And when I talk to my dad, he gets a lot of I don't understand this or that, and he's like, this was stupid, and I'm like, that's not a hill to die on, Dad. There are bigger fish to fry than that. Like I said, I told that story about when he watched Avengers, and he was like, I don't understand how Captain America's hand didn't break when he was punching these metal aliens in the face.
He's a superhero.
I don't know. I don't like the Gamora stuff. I don't like the Star-Lord stuff. Like I said, we get a scene in space with the three Tonys. Doctor Strange, the magic Tony Stark, the Tony Stark, and then Chris Pratt, the space Tony Stark, and they're all assholes to each other. Doctor Strange is the closest to, like, being level-headed, but even then he's a dick. And even then he doesn't, like, none of his decisions make sense. At the end when he's like, the only way to win was to give him the time stone. No, because let me give you a spoiler here. Unless I am horrendously misremembering Endgame.
You're giving me a lot of spoilers.
These are not real spoilers. These are spoilers to my opinion, not the movie itself. And I have not shied away from the fact that I don't really care for a lot of these late game movies. I liked Endgame, though. But Endgame was a different sort of like. But anyway, like, I don't remember in any capacity how Endgame justifies Doctor Strange seeing the only reality where this all works out being the one where he gives him the time stone. He seemed to have hidden it somewhere where Thanos couldn't get it. If he didn't give it to Thanos, Thanos would have never been able to get the Mind Stone because the Mind Stone's destroyed. So I don't understand how the actual winning maneuver was to hand over the thing that allows him to actually get, like, the time stone. The thing that Magic Tony Stark gives him is the only reason he's able to get all the stones. It's stupid. And it's fine. Like, again, it's just events to lead to things to happen. Like, I don't care. Like, I think the bigger sin is Star-Lord's stupid freak out where you couldn't just have Thanos break free at the last second.
Yep. You
have to have it, like, Star-Lord does something fucking stupid. And it's frustrating. It makes that whole bit feel
frustrating,
dumb. Yeah, like if at the end he had just, like, snapped awake, or if, like, someone had made if someone had had an accident, like,
well, fuck, Mantis, we see so little of Mantis, just have Mantis be like, I can't do it anymore, boom.
Yeah, if that was what had happened, I'd be like, okay, fine. But the fact that he has to ruin it is stupid, and it makes him look like an inept dipshit. It doesn't, and it's supposed to be, one, you gotta have your heroes, you know, fail so that they can rise back up again or whatever. But it's also, like, it's supposed to be, like, you gotta earn that thing because Gamora's dead and you gotta feel that emotion. They're all emotional.
But, like, every relationship in these movies, it's so thin.
But it's hollow. And it's just him throwing a tantrum so that we can have Thanos do the things. And it's, again, like, a part of this is Tony Stark's fault because he refuses to turn the ship around. And, like, because he's like, we got to bring the fight to Thanos. And he makes a mediocre argument where he's like, you know, we saw what he could do on Earth. At least if we go to him, he's not expecting it. That's decent reasoning, I guess. But no better than, like, listen to the magic wizard who seems to know more of what's going on. And also, like, I don't know, like, I'm inclined to go to my general idea of, like, everything is Tony Stark's fault. We've watched 5 movies or whatever where things have been his fault, and they continue to be his fault. All 3 Iron Man movies, the villain would not exist if not for some stupid fucking thing that Tony Stark does. In Age of Ultron, Ultron would not exist if not for some stupid fucking thing Tony Stark does. In Spider-Man, Vulture kinda would not exist if not for things Tony Stark does. I guess in those it's not necessarily stupid, but he's involved. So he gets a half point there.
Just like how
in Civil War, the whole ending of Civil War is because he has a tantrum. And the whole hangar scene in Civil War is because he is an idiot. They're all idiots, but he's the bigger one. And that's what all these are, is it's him being stupid. And so when there's a scene where they say, let's turn the ship around, that seems like the reasonable solution. He goes, no, I don't want to do it because I'm Tony Stark and I'm in charge. I'm the big man in the Marvel Universe. It's just like, fuck you, dude. You just keep screwing shit up. And everyone says you're the greatest superhero.
There's 2 constants. I will always be apathetic and not care about anything in these movies.
And I will always hate Tony Stark and blame him for
you will always hate
everything
Tony
bad
Stark.
in my life. I stub my toe and I'm like, fucking Tony Stark.
Tony Stark built this goddamn table. So, speaking of Tony Stark, maybe this is what you're referring to. He mentions New York, and I guess I didn't remember him mentioning it in a sense of, like, we saw what he can do on Earth. I took it as a, like, we gotta pay him back for New York. We got to pay Thanos.
And I mean, maybe it's that too. If that's the case, it's even worse.
That's what I was going to say, because
if his motivation is revenge rather than a tactical decision of he won't expect us coming, then it's even worse.
Because that's how I took it, and I was like, New York wasn't a loss. Like, why is Tony so hung up on New York?
It's because that's his, again, nothing is earned, and that's his quote-unquote character arc, is he feels guilt as of Civil War, I guess. He has a little bit of guilt, I guess, that motivates Ultron happening. But, like, that's his character arc, because he feels guilty about the things he did. But then all he does is make more mistakes. And so, I don't know. I have no sympathy for the dude. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And watching a movie that has, you say, like, the Mind Stone thing doesn't feel earned because of the time thing, and that's true. I see where you're coming from. It worked for me, but I get it. Yours is more of a meta complaint of like, I knew that it was coming, so it's not earned, which is not unfair. Mine is just like, in the moment, it worked for me. I felt like we got the lead up to their individual, like, isolated segment of like her coming to terms with destroying the stone. I felt like I got enough there for it to earn its moment more than any other moment in the movie does. Mm-hmm. But like, my breaking point is like that whole thing, like Tony Stark sends him to the planet for no stupid reason, and then space Tony Stark fucks everything up and allows Thanos to break free, and then magic Tony Stark gives him the fucking stone. Like, all three Tony Starks are the ones that fuck up here, and that's really frustrating. It's not fun. So what's everyone else doing? So Thor, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot go make a
Stormbreaker.
And this is another one that, like, I don't know, in isolation, there's some neat ideas. I like the idea of, like, space dwarves using a tiny sun to power a forge. I like the bit where Thor like, there's moments of comic booky stuff. You get glimpses of it. And so, like, when he flings the ship around and then uses that to, like, launch himself and then, like,
to start up
the thing up. Like, that's fun. The fact that he has to, like, hold the thing open is, like, a fun, stupid
I thought
thing.
That worked as a good comic book moment.
It's a good comic book moment, and it reminds me of Superman in the sun at the end of All-Star Superman.
That's what I was going to say.
But it's stupid that thing is there in the middle of... They're like, it's damaged, so it won't open. And there's, like, the two levers right in the path of where that laser would go. And I was like, how would that work if it was working? Like, what are those? They seem to be handholds for someone to stand there and open it, but no one's supposed to... Like, that thing doesn't make any sense. But it's there to, like, have a fun comic... Like you said, a fun comic booky hero moment of, like, I'm going to sacrifice things so that the things can happen. And that's fun. Like, I think the Rocket Groot and stuff is fine. I think, again, another thing unearned, Groot's moment is unearned. He spends the whole movie
oh my God.
playing his stupid video game, and then at the end he's like, I'm gonna make the handle. Wow! And it's like, as a isolated thing, like comic booky stuff, the fact that Thor's hammer is made partially from Groot is a fun idea.
Yep.
In execution, it's incredibly stupid.
I know people love baby Groot. I know this is adolescent Groot. I don't like
it's
either.
Teenager Groot.
I didn't like it at the end of Guardians 2 or whatever when he's like talking back, and I don't know. It's obnoxious.
Especially because he doesn't do anything. He is not even like really in the movie until the moment that he just like looks up and he's like, I guess Thor's doing a thing. I may as well be inspired.
Yeah.
And then he just like gets up and he's like, I'm the handle. And again, like,
that's a cool
idea.
Handle
made from Groot. Cool idea. And it's like part of like the cinematic universe, like coalescing into one thing. Mm-hmm. That's cool. In execution, though, it's just like a dumb scene that doesn't feel earned because he doesn't do anything. Like, you don't even like, he just sits in the background and plays his video game. So like, everyone's like, Groot, you better stop playing that video game. It's not like he's playing the video game and he misses something important.
Do you like how Thor took Groot language as an elective?
It's fine.
I know it's a throwaway line, but I don't know. It works in my cosmic Asgard crap where I'm just like, why? I know you need to like, you don't need to make him understand Groot. I don't know. I actually really didn't like Thor in this movie and people's interactions with Thor.
I thought all of the Guardians were obnoxious. All of their scenes feel so different, and that's because their movie is so different, and it's tonally supposed to like mesh their movies into this.
Gamora fits the best, and I guess Rocket's
part of it is they're all idiots.
Yeah.
Like when you get the scene with the three Tonys and the rest of the Guardians, like you get like Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange having a serious conversation, and then Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis are all like honking clown noses.
Yeah, I hated Drax again.
Hey, you want to take a guess as to what my least favorite bit in all of these movies is?
Is it when Drax is eating chips?
Yes, I fucking hate that.
It's so funny.
It makes no sense.
No, it's hysterical.
Everyone in the theater was laughing hysterically.
I know.
It makes no sense. It's not a good joke. It is the dumbest Drax has ever been, and he gets dumber with each appearance.
It dissolves the
what is supposed to be a tender and serious moment between.
We can't have those.
Gamora.
This is a Marvel movie.
And Star-Lord. I hate it. I hate it for its placement, and I hate it for the joke that it is. It is so stupid that he thinks that if he stands still, he can be invisible. And I know the joke is that it's stupid.
But he's smart. Like, he's not stupid.
He's not an idiot. But he is now.
He doesn't know what, like, he takes everything literally. That was his joke. Not that he's stupid. He's a combat
I walked out
superior.
Absolutely certain that all of the Guardian scenes were made by committee to sound like James Gunn. Then I found out later that he came in and filmed the Guardian scenes.
That doesn't mean he wrote them.
Those were filmed by him.
Doesn't mean he wrote them. He's just getting a paycheck at that point. I don't know. I hated all his stuff with like when they first see Thor and he's like a little space angel. He's like an angel pirate.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but that stuff's whatever. Like I didn't mind Thor in this. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate him or like him. He's whatever. I think his appearance at the end with Stormbreaker is fun because it's that big. It's like a lot of the stuff that in Isolation, it's like the big heroic comic booky bombast where he's just like flinging lightning everywhere, and like that stuff's fun. But it's fun in isolation. It's part of the whole. It's just like a thing that doesn't really feel earned. It also, like, this is a movie walking back on a lot of things, especially with Thor. It walks back, like, it's not a big thing, but I like Thor with an eye patch.
Yeah, why get rid of that?
It's different. It's different. It also, it shows maturity because it's a clear visual allusion to like him becoming his father. It shows like growth in the universe as like things move forward, so there are consequences. Again, it's not a big one.
It's just
but there is a consequence. And similarly, like the loss of the hammer was a consequence. That hammer is never coming back. But in this movie, they just go, well, it's time for the big thing. Thor needs a hammer, so we get the hammer back.
I disagree with the hammer, but the eye was...
Like, I'm not saying, like, the hammer's bad. Like, I like the hammer in this movie. But again, it's like, the thing that is most interesting to me about the Marvel Universe, I've said this before, is the idea of progression. That eventually, these actors are going to grow old, or grow tired, and leave these movies. And the idea is you either reboot, or you continue forward. And I like the idea of continuing forward. I like the idea that an actor is going to leave, and you don't just say, like, we're going to cast someone else to be Spider-Man. You say, like, okay, maybe we do Miles now, and he just lives in this same universe. Maybe Captain America passes the shield on to Bucky, and Bucky becomes Captain America. Maybe, maybe Iron Man dies, and he's just an AI, or, someone else gets the suit. Maybe we do Riri. Maybe we make Rhodey full-on Iron Man. I like that idea, and it's small. Like, it's not a huge thing for Thor to lose his eye. It's not a huge thing for Thor to lose his hammer. It is in the movie, but, like, it's not a big change. But it's change. It's forward progression. And then in this, like, you get one movie of him without his hammer, saying that it ends with him saying, like, you don't need the hammer. The hammer's not you. You're the god of thunder. You're not your hammer. And then this movie, he immediately goes, Thanos kicked my butt, so I need a hammer. And then they get him a hammer. Because everybody likes Thor with the hammer. That's how you know Thor's the badass.
Well, my problem with a lot of these movies, and this movie in particular, is that, like, yeah, giving some time to Thor, like, it doesn't... I think Stormbreaker works in the context of what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's...
Like, I don't disagree.
It's a way more interesting story. What is the main plot? What's the A-plot of Infinity War?
Of this movie? Thanos wants to get all the Infinity Stones.
But he's not the main character.
No. But that's the A-plot. That's the driving force between every scene.
And that's the problem, is that, like, do you want your A-plot to be Wanda coming to terms with having to kill Vision to prevent Thanos from getting the Mind Stone? Like, I think that's a perfectly good A-plot to spend your time on. To focus on, build their relationship, have her struggle with coming to terms with it, being forced to, boom, there you go. But we got too much other shit to put in this movie. Same thing with Thor. Like, Thor needing to get Stormbreaker so that he can defeat Thanos.
That is a movie, or at least a chunk of a movie, and instead it is a scene.
That's what this whole movie is. It's just a bunch of movies that are just scenes. Like, I hated the Marvel shorts, but make these all Marvel shorts.
And something that I think is interesting if we continue doing these Marvel TV shows is theoretically, you could have an hour-long Marvel movie that is part of like an anthology show. They'll never do it. But I think that's a more interesting way to do it, rather than expanding something into 2.5 hours that doesn't need to be. Instead, taking one aspect of that that's really interesting and going, I'm going to just work on this for an hour. 1 hour, hell, 90 minutes of my time focused on this single idea. Like, I think there is a really, really interesting idea in this movie of Banner cannot turn into Hulk. The problem is, there's nothing to it. It's just a couple scenes of Hulk yelling that he's not going to come out, and I don't think it feels earned.
That's every plot point in this movie.
Hulk loses a fight against Thanos, and I guess you could argue, like, Hulk has never lost a fight before. Hulk is super strong. So his first big defeat, makes him pout like a child. because we see that he's kind of a child in Ragnarok. It's there, but that's not what the movie does. The movie just has him be like, come on, Hulk, you gotta come out. And then Hulk goes, no! And then he puts on the armor. And again, it's a comic booky thing. It's fun to see someone else ride around in the armor, especially the guy that armor was built to defeat.
Why does Wakanda have the Hulkbuster?
It doesn't matter. You're not supposed to think about that. Don't ask those questions.
Here's what I think is a big misstep.
Don't ask the questions, just enjoy. Shovel the popcorn into your face and watch the pictures. I think Peter Parker getting the Iron Spider suit is fucking stupid and unearned. And we've said before...
It would have been better if he just showed up with the Iron Spider because, I don't know. It would have just been better. Since we don't get another movie of Spider-Man being Spider-Man, just give him the fucking armor at the end of Homecoming. It doesn't matter.
I agree and disagree. I agree that it doesn't matter.
It's a better scene in Homecoming with him not taking it.
And I think it's a better scene in this one to have him not know that it's happening and then just kind of... But, like, we don't... It doesn't matter in the end. Like, you're right in that, like, 90% of this functions with him just already having the armor. And I agree. I also, like we've said before, I hate the magic masks that just disappear off of people's faces. I fucking hate it. But, like, Peter Parker is barely in this movie, and that's fine. This isn't a Spider-Man movie, but to the point...
He's an Avenger. It's an Avengers movie. I mean, I don't know.
I wish he wasn't in the movie, because, like, he has a bunch of fun bits where he does fun stuff. But in Civil War, it was fun to see Spider-Man and, like, show off all of his powers in, like, a fun, bright, like, action scene where we're seeing a whole bunch of people show off their powers. That theoretically happens in this, but instead I just see Spider-Man doing a whole bunch of crap in like a gross CGI landscape where everything's CGI nonsense. Also, when they were in the ship and Tony and Peter took off their CGI masks and they were standing in their CGI armor suits, they looked terrible. They looked like heads floating in a CGI landscape.
I still have an irrational dislike for all of Tony's, like, every movie with Tony in it, he has a new way to put on his suit, and, like, I don't know. It doesn't work for me.
Wait until the next movie and he has Ant-Man shove a suit up his butt.
It's just like something that, like I said, it's irrational. I don't know why. I think it's just like, if he just had a new suit, whatever, but it's because the movie needs to be like, this is fucking badass.
Again, it's fine, because in a comic book he would do it, and I wouldn't think anything of it, but in these movies where they start so grounded and go so fantastical, and I want the fantastical stuff, but
I don't even think it's a grounded thing.
At the end,
it's the time. It's only a few seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Like in a comic book,
I agree.
Tony would just show up. You'd have a new suit.
But what I'm saying is, like, at the end when he's fighting Thanos, and Thanos is just like tearing off the helmet, and he's like, nanites, make me a new one, and then he's like, make the nanites turn my hand into a giant laser, and then
why does everyone have a fucking sword?
He just like keeps like
Iron Man uses a sword to fight Thanos. Doctor Strange uses a sword. Why is Doctor Strange using physical manifestations like up close?
He did it in his movie. No, he had the whip. Well, he got better. Now he's the Sorcerer Supreme.
He's the Swordster Supreme. Speaking of Ant-Man, I like how there's like throwaway line where they're like, hey, we should get a Hawkeye. And fucking whoever, I can't remember, Mr. Flag is like, oh, they're under house arrest or whatever. Yeah, it's the fucking end of the world. I don't know. Scott Lang's a criminal. What does he care? Like,
yeah.
Plus, I like how they put him in the raft. Steve breaks him out. And then I guess they get caught again.
And they're like, here's a plea deal, though.
And they're like, hey, we put you in the raft, but Captain America just broke you out, so just stay in your home, I guess.
I mean, maybe Captain America came to break him out, and they're like, we are not, like, no, we'll just stay here.
It's safer in here.
I'm sure it'll all work out.
That's the other thing. Okay, at the beginning of the movie, the Black Order shows up, but, like, I don't know, it's a giant... Maybe I just am, like, I've seen too many, like, alien invasion movies or whatever, but I just feel like nobody knows this is happening. There's a giant spaceship above New York.
I mean, we see a news report later.
But
I agree.
Later, but like, I don't know, you're telling me this whole bus full of school kids didn't notice, like...
Oh, yeah. So, I was about that Black Order showing up thing. The one thing I will say, I think the action bit that I like the most is at the beginning of the movie. And part of it might be it wasn't 2.5 hours later and I wasn't as exhausted and nursing a migraine. But I also think, I don't know, there's something more aesthetically appealing to me with a bunch of superheroes fighting quote-unquote supervillains in a city versus a bunch of superheroes fighting a big stupid purple man in a CGI spacescape and then a bunch of soldiers fighting CGI alien monsters in the fields of Naboo.
No, I agree. Sorry for ruining that. I agree. Plus, it's like daytime in the city.
Yeah.
That helped. I mean, it's daytime in Wakanda too, but
at the end of Wakanda, my head was throbbing. I was just like, I hate the shaky cam was getting to me.
It's just,
and there was just like so much crap going on. I kept like I closed my eyes multiple times.
We keep mentioning spectacle.
I'll just look up when I hear.
We keep mentioning spectacle, and yeah, I get it. That's a spectacle, but at what cost? Like, fuck that noise. Like, it's just things. Again.
And there are moments in those things that are fun.
And then, like, the giant spiky wheels come out for no goddamn reason?
Yeah.
Well, this is fucking stupid.
It goes on forever.
It makes sense to be like, oh, the little alien guys are running around, and, like, we need to be able to, they can't sneak in behind us. We need to, like, funnel them in here. Why not just, like, keep opening and closing it really fast so that only a few get in, and then the rest get chopped in half?
Because at this point, we're at
Endgame.
Action time.
I don't know. I still don't understand Wakanda. I don't understand how, like, the gorilla tribe is still, like, sticks and stones.
No, didn't they also have the magic techno shield capes?
I mean, maybe, but I don't know.
I mean, maybe not. I don't know.
They still just wear, like, fur.
Sure, but they all kind of wear general tribal aesthetics. I think that's just like a thing. It's just like an aesthetic choice.
Not the Panthers.
They still got like the like, I don't know, like the design on their capes. I guess they are wearing like armor, but I think the tribe is also wearing armor. The gorilla tribe is also wearing armor. I don't know if but that's also like, again, we talked about this in Black Panther, so I don't want to get on it again too much, but like we did talk about how like it seems to be that the gorilla tribe just like does not have any of they are part of Wakanda without any of the benefits. They just live in the mountains and deal with it. There was something else that I wanted to bring up, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm like scanning through. Oh, we had talked about the Soul Stone and then never really and talked about everything else about it. But like, what did you think about the Keeper of the Skull Stone?
Red Skull, stupid, unearned.
I agree.
What do I care?
It was I don't think Hugo Weaving, I don't even think he came back for it. I think it was just someone aping his voice and CGI trickery. But I mean, it's one of those things that like, in isolation, in the moment, watching it, and I mean, comic books do this too, so it's a comic booky thing where they're just like, oh my gosh, look at this character is now here. And that's like, neat for a fraction of a second. When he shows up, like the first time I remember being in the theater, he shows up and you're like, oh, that's a neat thing. But then it's like, 2 seconds after that, you're like, wait, why is he there? And then he's like, I touched a stone, but then it punished me and sent me here to be the guardian. And it's like, why? Why would the Space Stone do that? Why would you be here doing this? And it's just because they needed someone to explain the rules of the Reality Stone or the Soul Stone. And why not bring someone back from another movie? Why introduce a whole new alien that's just going to be here to tell us the rules? If we could bring back another, like, this is the thing of like bringing back people. That's what these movies are now. So like, why not do the Red Skull? And like, whatever, it's fine, but I agree, like, it's nothing. Doesn't matter.
What if this movie focused on the Black Order as like a herald to Thanos, while Thanos was just like gathering Infinity Stones?
That would have been good. Like I said, a movie that focuses on the villains instead
that focuses
of
on something.
Yeah. Because I think you can also, like, all these complaints about, like, hey, there's all these interesting ideas, but they don't really go anywhere. I think those can be ignored more, not in our context of nitpicking everything. But I think in a broad sense, stuff like, not really getting into the Hulk not showing up, not really getting into, Thor and getting a hammer back and all that kind of crap, not really getting into where everybody has been for the past couple movies, not really getting too much into Scarlet Witch and Vision. I think that's more acceptable if we are instead watching a movie where we understand that their stories are not the story we're watching. Mm-hmm. We watch everybody else show up and we, like, part of the movie becomes filling in those blanks. Mm-hmm. Because we're watching the villains encounter these characters, and these characters are in places that we have not seen them before, but neither of the villains, and we're focusing on the villain story. So we show up at, Titan, and oh my gosh, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange is sitting there. We don't know that anybody else is showing up until suddenly Spider-Man and Star-Lord show up, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these people were here. Mm-hmm. I think that's more interesting, and I think you can let a lot of those things slide. But because the movie focuses on the heroes, but not to any extent to actually give them the time or focus they need, it's a hodgepodge of a movie. They're
just like interesting ideas that aren't successfully utilized. Like there's not enough time. It's a long movie, but there's just not enough time to put like 4 full stories in 2.5 hours. Here's a missed opportunity with Hulk. I was hoping so bad that I would get to see a fun comic book moment of the Hulk busting out of that Hulk armor.
The Hulk Buster,
yeah,
if you will. I actually kind of like that we don't see the Hulk again for the rest of the movie, but I also like it in the idea of like, I like it in the movie where we actually do something with the Hulk not showing up, as opposed to just like expecting him to finally show up and kick ass and never doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it worked. I just think I think that would have been a fun visual.
Yeah.
It bothered me, this super nitpicky, it bothered me that Thanos like fused him into the rock, and then later...
And then we don't care about it.
He doesn't even bust out of it. He's just like, hey, what up, everybody? Let me just stand here.
Again, with the stones and their willy-nilly powers all over the place. That bit at the end when he's coming to get the Soul Stone, or the Mind Stone, is where we finally see a bunch of the powers kind of get used. Well, I take that back, because he doesn't really do much.
It's only the strength, or the power, and the space, as far as I remember.
Yeah, I take it back. It's just like a bunch, but like that's a bit where the stones are just shown to do whatever. Like we see Spider-Man, the 3 Tony Starks, and 2 other schmucks, well, and Nebula, so 3 other schmucks, fight him on the planet, and they seem to be like holding their own against him. But then a whole bunch of other superheroes fight him, and he's like, "What's this? The Hulk Buster? Fuck that! Woo!" And he's just like knocking him aside, because at this point we're at the end of the movie. We don't have time for a whole nother thing.
We didn't have time for anything during the movie.
No, I agree, but now we're at the point where it's just like, we just show that he's super powerful now because he's got the time stone, and even though he's not using it, now we know that he's leveled up. And it's just like a whole bunch of stuff happening, and then there's like that bit where Captain America seems to like hold his fist back, and I was like, Tony Stark was in like super mega crazy armor that like planted him into the ground, and Spider-Man has like the proportional strength of a spider. And we're going to believe that a very tired Captain America, who has been fighting a whole bunch of aliens for the past hour and a half, can hold Thanos' superpowered hand back. I did like that they established the rule that like, as he can only use the stones if he like clenches his fist. It's like stupid and doesn't matter, but it like at least gives someone a goal to go towards and explains why he's not just using powers willy-nilly. But then there's also that bit where like Tony Stark shoots like nanites at it, and he's like, make a thing so that he can't close his fingers. It's dumb. Anyway, he finally gets the stone out of Vision. I like the creepy, like, zombie Vision. I don't know, there's no reason why his color should disappear, but whatever.
I was thinking that too, and I guess it's because he uses his power to make his color?
I guess so. I guess you're right.
That's his power. Red Tornado can cry, and he can make his costume different colors.
He gets all the stones, and he's like, now I can snap. Oh, well, then Thor shows up and stabs him through the chest. Then he snaps, and then people start fading into dust. And I will say, again, I should have just put something at the beginning that just says, like, every statement I make has an addendum that is, like...
There's always asterisks.
In isolation. But I think a lot of the, like, people turn into dust is effectively creepy. It makes, like, a weird noise, and there's, like, creepy music, and they just kind of, like, fade away. I think that was kind of creepy and unsettling in a way that I liked.
You know what I liked that was creepy and unsettling? When Mantis was turned into ribbons.
I didn't like that. I also didn't like when...
Drax put himself together again?
Well, when Drax gets chopped to bits, he's like completely gray, like he was a statue or something. I couldn't tell if that was intentional or if that was like unfinished
CGI,
like VFX, and then they were just like, it doesn't matter, because he is like completely gray, and it's weird.
I think the fading away is fine. I don't know.
I didn't like that he turned stuff into bubbles twice.
I didn't either.
I didn't mind the bubbles thing. Like, the bubbles coming out of Star-Lord's gun was fine, but then when he turns Gamora's dagger into bubbles, I was thinking like,
I thought that was just like dust.
You do? No, when she does it, she like opens her hands and then bubbles fly out.
They weren't like big bubbles like the blaster and the...
Yeah, but a whole bunch of characters fade to dust. Pretty much everybody that's not a main Avenger, and then like Rocket, and I think Rhodey is still around. Rhodey, Rocket, and then all the main Avengers, and then like a couple like rando people. I think, what's his name? M'Baku, the leader of the gorilla tribe, and
Okoye? I know that one.
I think they survive.
I don't know. You've seen Endgame.
And then, yeah, I don't remember who all is around in that. They all fade away, and then we see, what's his face? Thanos in a hut coming out to see the sun. I didn't like how long it took Peter to disappear.
Yeah, I mean, much like all of the Infinity Stone powers, it was just kind of like, maybe the power was the script we wrote along the way.
Well, like, everybody like fades at different intervals, and that's whatever. Like,
you need it
the
for
snap
a movie,
should
yeah.
be The snap should be instantaneous, but it's whatever. It honestly isn't that noticeable until Nick Fury in the end credits thing, because he, like, a car disappears, like someone disappears in a car in front of them because it swerves, and then you see like a helicopter crash because someone disappeared, then Hill disappears, and then Fury disappears like a minute and a half later. And it's fine, but it's like, that was the part that really was noticeable, that it was like awkwardly strange how delayed it was. But Peter starts to
he like comments on it a bunch and stuff, like,
yeah. Nick Fury, he just doesn't disappear right away, and then like once he starts to fade, he fades. But with Peter, he like starts to fade, and then he like falls over, and then he like grasps onto Tony, and then Tony holds him, and he like has like a little mini speech, and then he fades into dust.
Everybody else just kind of like they fade whenever they fade, but Peter just fades for like 4 minutes.
Then the movie ends.
Thank God.
On a downer.
Oh, wow.
So, Seth, give me 2 put-ups and a put-down.
I don't know. I love watching Black Widow flip around a bunch.
You know what? I'm gonna just save us some time, and I'm gonna do a dual put-up. I was sitting on this. I was gonna bring it up in the review, and I was like, we can just talk about it in the put-ups. Black Widow continues to be the best Avenger.
She's the most interesting.
All of her fight scenes are so much fun. She flips around. It's awesome. She has like a staff in this movie.
Yeah,
it's sweet.
No, I think she stole Proxima Midnight's staff.
Oh, maybe you're right.
Because it like gets shot up into the spaceship.
But she has her first appearance. She like flips around and does a whole bunch of spinny kicks and stuff, and it's awesome. And then during the big battle, you get a bunch of stuff with her flipping around.
I think it's because,
and doing stuff. It's awesome.
As much as we were saying that nobody has their moment to like sit in this, there's something about Black Widow that, like, she's a superhero in name only. Like, she doesn't have, like, it feels like she does it because it's the right thing to do. And, like, she holds her own because she's skilled. Like, if I watched Thor do the same thing, I'd be like, well, he's the God of Thunder. He's, like, the strongest guy ever. But there's something about Black Widow that when I watch her fight, like, Proxima Midnight, I'm just like, you get her. You go, girl. Like,
I know it's probably going to be a disappointment in the end because
they
always are. But, like, I was so ambivalent to the Black Widow movie. It was exciting, like, another female-led superhero movie, but I just didn't really care about Black Widow until we started watching these again. But watching them again, like, she is definitely the character that I am most interested to see show up again, and so I'm kind of becoming more and more excited for her movie. I know it's going to disappoint me because it's going to spend 2.5 hours on her doing nothing and turning her into a boring character when she's really just interesting because she shows up and does her fun flips.
She just always seems to, like, she's usually smart in what she's doing.
She feels competent. She wouldn't have gotten emotional and snapped Thanos out of his
even when she sees
meld.
Bruce again, she's just like, Bruce, and like, that's fine. I guess the movie doesn't try to make it anything more than it is, but like, I don't know,
she's focused.
Yeah, like,
she knows what needs to be done and she does it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but she just always works for me. My second put up is going to be the joke I liked, which is when Peter introduces himself to Doctor Strange. That worked really well for me.
That is
where he's like, "Oh, we're using funny names. I'm Spider-Man." That's one of the very few jokes that I didn't laugh out loud, but it was like an appreciation. Like, that's good. That's a good joke. My put down, I think, is going to have to be the Wakanda fight because it's just total nothing. It's just a whole bunch of CGI aliens running into a shield for a long time, and then just a bunch of shit going on. The best thing I can say about it was that it is in the daytime. And it was, to give it a little bit, to give credit where credit's due, the Wakanda battle is like an hour long, maybe. I have no idea. But Black Widow has a fight in there, which is good. And I do think it's a good scene when Wanda goes to, like, help hold things off.
Like I said, my first put up is also Black Widow. My second put up, I was kind of thinking on it. And I think I'm going to say I like Wanda. Like I said, I felt out of anything in this movie. And I know that's a very low bar. I thought the Wanda and Vision stuff was the most earned. I agree that it's not as earned as it could be, but I felt like it got enough there. I also liked both of her, like, action scenes. Her big savior moment in Wakanda is good. And I also liked when she was, like, grabbing Vision and, like, flying around in Scotland. I thought that stuff was fun. There's not a lot to it, but she is competent in this, or she is powerful.
Yes, I will give you that.
Like, In the other movies, she just kind of like flings stuff around. But in this one, like she lifts that like that gigantic drill thing and just like launches it. She's like flinging people into buildings in Scotland, and she like telekinetically picks up vision and just like flies away. And she seems like out of everyone in these movies, she feels like a superhero. There's something about her, like she just felt like a superhero in this. She felt like big and weird in a way that was enjoyable, but she doesn't do a whole lot. But it left an impact. Kind of like Thor finally felt like a god in this movie when he just like comes in and like slams down his new fancy hammer. Her stuff worked for me. My put down is going to be the 3 Tony scenes, the 3 Tonys scene in space, all of it. All of them bickering with each other, the Guardians standing there being a bunch of dumbasses picking their noses and like honking clown noses and playing slide whistles while everybody else is in a serious movie. When Tony is in a scene and just annoying, when Magic Tony gives up the stone, when Space Tony ruins the whole plan with Thanos, and also just I hated that CGI planet and the entire battle and that stuff is happening that should be fun, and I hated it. It was all obnoxious and gave me a headache, even more than the Wakanda stuff. It's just the Wakanda stuff went on longer. Even, like, I think Spider-Man is annoying in this movie, but...
Can I add one more thing to it? Can I have a third, an unprecedented third put-up?
Go
Mainly because we didn't talk about it, and I think it deserves it. Shout out to Doctor Strange's cape, which I think is fun.
I think it's fun in this one.
Yeah.
I thought it was annoying in his
In this
movie.
one,
I thought it was okay in this one. But he doesn't have his gloves, so...
It's a wash.
He loses points.
Well, no, Doctor Strange doesn't have his gloves. Doctor Strange loses points. The cape is still good.
Seth, where do you put Avengers Infinity War in your ranking of every Marvel movie ever?
Well, Andrew, I think they're all starting to plateau, just kind of like dead in the middle. We were talking before we started where it's just like, where does this go? And I have this mix of Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and Black Panther that are between Ant-Man and Avengers Age of Ultron. And that's just kind of where I put everything now. And just like this mass, and I just basically close my eyes and point. And I'm like, I guess Avengers Infinity War is better than Black Panther, but worse than Thor Ragnarok.
Out of the 20 movies we've watched, and that's including the Snyder Cut, I guess, I put it at number 10. And it really just came down to, like, I just went down the list and I went, it's definitely below all of these, but I went to, starting at the top, I was like, is it below this? Yes. Is it below this? Yes. Is it below this? Yes. And I went down until I got to Civil War, and I was like, is it below Civil War? And I thought, yep, it's basically Civil War, but longer and more frustrating. And I think Civil War is probably the same runtime, but it didn't feel as long as this did. And so I have it below Civil War and above Age of Ultron. And honestly, it probably could go below Age of Ultron, but I think there's more interesting pieces to it than Age of Ultron, so it's above that. But Civil War is just a tighter version of this spectacle. This is more of a spectacle. This is the bigger Civil War, but as a movie, as something I would watch again, Civil War goes above this.
It's funny because in my list, Civil War is so far down at number 17, whereas Avengers Infinity War is at 9. And I think some of it is just a general apathy. I mean, the last 3 movies we watched have been thrown in. Other than Guardians 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming, which I like, the last 6 movies we watched, 4 of them have just kind of been thrown in this general area of like, Ant-Man had some fine things, and Avengers Age of Ultron I didn't like. I think Infinity War's benefit is, I called them vignettes, and I hold true to that, in that I don't think they have any real substance, but there's some small things in the vignettes that I don't think are earned, that I don't think are effectively utilized or fleshed out or anything, but I mean, I don't know. I can't deny that Thor lightning everybody and showing up in Wakanda isn't a neat visual and spectacle and comic booky thing. It's just, you gotta sit through 2.5 hours of nothing.
Yeah.
Of no returns to have those moments.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And like I said, each time we do this, I rate each movie is rated on a different scale when it's added to the list. And some of them it's a very thorough scale, and some of it is just like, did it have pieces I enjoyed? I guess it goes higher than this. And sometimes it falls down to like, would I just watch it again? And like, this goes below Civil War because while this has more interesting things, Civil War is lighter, Civil War is tighter, and if you strapped me to a chair and said I had to watch both of them, or one or the other, I would watch Civil War again.
So you can watch Ant-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, the tarmac is a dumb scene.
It's a dumb scene, but it's got the Ant-Man stuff. It's got
all
Hawkeye
shot
finally being useful. It's got Spider-Man doing some awesome stuff.
I mean, it works. I don't know if I said that when we recorded. I probably didn't. But
no, I think we did. Because I think we both talked about how, like, there's a lot of good stuff in that tarmac scene. It's stupid. In the middle of that movie, it's complete garbage, but it's also, like, some of the best stuff these movies have done yet.
I mean, I don't know.
In terms of just, like, superhero spectacle.
There's something about people with grow big powers that's just, like, inherently fun. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like this, tell a friend. If you didn't, then lie to a friend. Check us out on Twitter at SoHowAbout. You can find me on Twitter at SethKumpf. You can find Andrew on Twitter at TessuDownist. And subscribe to us on YouTube at SoHowAbout.
And join us next time when we do this once more with interference.
Watcher.
So, Seth, now that the mics are off, what are we watching next week?
Glad you asked, Andrew. We're going to be watching Avengers Endgame, because why would they put movies in between?
Mr. Seth, I don't feel so good.
What's wrong?
I think it's just gas.
Do you want Ant-Man to go inside you, Fantastic Voyage style, and find the gas and kill it?
Suck out my gas, Ant-Man.
Suck out my gas with a straw, Ant-Man. He's on house arrest. He can't.